Do you work or study? I work as an actor. I work in sales in a tech company in Dublin. I'm currently unemployed. I'm a house husband. I don't have a formal job. I'm a butcher. I'm a baker. I'm a candlestick maker. I work in hospitality. I work in the hotel industry. I work in the human resources department of a fashion company. I'm an apricot. Sorry, I'm an astronaut. I am the director of a Fortune 500 company. Regardless of what your job is, for the IELTS speaking test, you should prepare your answer for this common question. Do you work or study? Now, if you're a student, let me know in the comment section and I'll make a similar video for you guys. But workers, this one's for you. We're going to be looking at how to answer this question as well as many other Part 1 questions connected to the theme of work. We're also going to be looking at what you should say if you're unemployed or look after your family full-time. Are you ready? Let's go. So, do you work or study? So how would we answer this? Well, we have different sentence structures that we can use. We could say something like, I work as a, or I work as an, and then the job. So I work as a cook. I work as an actor. Similarly, we could say, I'm a cook. I'm an actor. We might want to say, I work in, and then the department, and then at a industry company. So for example, I work in sales at a technology company. We could say, I work in the technology industry. So I work in the, and then the name of the industry, and then industry. So I work in the fashion industry. We could also say, I work in fashion, or I work in tech. I'm currently unemployed. So if you don't have a job, you can say, I'm currently unemployed. Or, I'm a housewife, a house husband. I don't have a formal job. So maybe your full-time job is to look after your family. You can say, I'm a housewife, or I'm a house husband. We also often say, I'm a stay-at-home mum, or a stay-at-home dad, instead of saying housewife or house husband. Okay, let's have a look at how we could improve on some of these answers. Now, the best way to improve on these answers is to give a bit more detail. So for example, we can add something. Instead of saying simply, I'm currently unemployed, we could say, I'm currently unemployed, but I used to work as a lawyer. Or, instead of saying, I'm a housewife, house husband, I don't have a formal job, let's say, I'm a house husband, I don't have a formal job. However, before I started taking care of my family full-time, I used to work as a policeman. Right, another very good way to expand upon our answers is to use the present perfect form. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So you could say, for example, I'm working for a sales company, and then we can add something like, I've been with the same company for 2 years. Okay, so do you see, I've been is the perfect form. So I've been with the same company for 2 years. Now, when we use the present perfect form, we often use it with for or since. So we'll use it with for to describe a duration of time. So for 2 years. Or since, we'll use with a moment in time. So I've been working with the same company since last year. Okay, here's another sentence. I've been working in this industry for the last few years. So I've been working, so that's even more advanced. That's the present perfect continuous form. Okay, we could also say something like this. I've been in the tech industry for the last 4 years, but I only started working for my current company last year. Okay, we could also say something like this. I've been doing the same job since 2018, but I recently changed from working in coding to working in sales for example. So talking about changing from different specialties in the same company or in the same organization. So for example, you could say, I recently changed from working in tax law to working in criminal law, if you're a lawyer. Okay, let's have a look at some of our model answers for these questions. Do you work or study? I work as an actor. I've mainly been doing theatre for the last few years, but recently I've transitioned to doing more television. I work in sales in a tech company in Dublin. I've been in sales for the last 4 years, but I've only been with my current company since last year. I'm currently unemployed. I used to work as a lawyer, but I was made redundant last year. I'm a house husband. I don't have a formal job. However, before I started looking after my family full-time, I used to work as a police officer. I'm a butcher. My father was a butcher, my father's father was a butcher, and my father's father's father was a butcher. I'm a baker. I've had my own bakery for 3 years now. I'm a candlestick maker. It's an unusual trade, but I've been specializing in candles all my life. I work in hospitality. I've been working in the industry ever since I left high school. I work in the hotel industry. I'm the director of sales for a large hotel chain across London. I work in the human resources department of a fashion company. I'm mainly involved in hiring. I'm an astronaut. I haven't been to space yet, but I hope to be going soon. I am the director of a Fortune 500 company. I built my company from scratch and now it's a market leader in women's wear. Now, instead of being asked, do you work or study, you could be asked the same question in a slightly different way. So for example, it could be, do you work or are you a student? Or what job do you do? Or what's your job? Or even, what's your profession? Now, after the examiner has asked you what's your profession, they're going to ask you some follow-up questions to find out a bit more about your job. Here's a very common one. What do you do in your work? Now, what do you do in your work is asking you about the responsibilities that you have. So you could say, for example, my work involves, and then give the responsibilities. Or, my main responsibilities are, and then you can give the responsibilities. Or even, every day is different, however, my main responsibilities are, and then give your responsibilities. Okay, let's have a look at some more model answers for this question. What do you do in your work? Well, that very much depends on whether I've got a role in a production or not. So, for example, if I've got a part in a show or a play, I'll mainly be learning my lines and attending the rehearsals. However, the rest of the time I'll have to be auditioning for the next role. Luckily, my agent is pretty good about making sure that I have a constant stream of work opportunities, so I'm never out of work for too long. Well, my work involves contacting different companies and organizations and telling them about the benefits of using our products. Then, if they become one of our customers, I'll check in with them every so often just to make sure that they're happy with their decision. Right, so the responsibilities that they mentioned were, well, for the actor, learn my lines, attend rehearsals, audition for new roles, and for the salesperson, well, contact different companies and organizations and tell them about the benefits of using the products, or check in with customers to make sure they are happy. Okay, now the important thing is that you learn the responsibilities and the vocabulary to talk about those responsibilities for the job that you have. Now, I'm not saying memorize long passages that you can recite during your speaking test, but learn some of the useful vocabulary that will enable you to talk about the responsibilities that you have in your job. Right, okay, so we've looked at what's your profession, we've looked at what do you do in your work. Now, another very typical question is, can you describe a typical working day? Now, can you describe a typical working day is asking you about your timetable. Let's see another model answer. Can you describe a typical working day? Sure. Well, I wake up at 7:30 as I need to be at the office by 9. I'll wolf down a quick breakfast, usually just cereal and orange juice, and set off to work by bicycle. Once I'm at the office, the first thing I'll do is to check my emails and update my to-do list for the day. I've usually got quite a lot on my plate, so I have to be pretty ruthless about prioritizing my time. If I don't plan my time well, I'll be forced to work deep into the night, which I've had to do a few times. Anyway, once I've established what I'll be doing that day, I get straight to it. Usually in the afternoon, I'll be following up with possible leads and liaising with my recent sign-ups to ensure that they're getting to grips with the product. There are usually a few internal meetings as well, but we do our best to keep the meetings to a minimum. Okay, so they said, sure, well, I wake up at 7:30 as I need to be at the office by 9. Okay, so they have, I wake up at 7:30. So they're talking about right back at the beginning of their day. And 7:30 basically means 7:30. So, well, I wake up at 7:30 as I need to be at the office by 9. What else do they say? I'll wolf down a quick breakfast, usually just cereal and orange juice, and set off to work by bicycle. So notice they've got I'll here. So I'll is I will, and we can use will when we're talking about habitual or actions that we do regularly in the present. So will is not just used for the future, we use it to talk about the present as well. So I'll wolf down a quick breakfast. Now, wolf down is a phrasal verb. To wolf something down means to eat it very quickly. Now, wolf is the animal, kind of similar to a dog, but a lot more dangerous. And if we wolf something down, it means that we're going to eat that thing incredibly quickly. So this guy is late for work, so he normally has to wolf down a quick breakfast. So he eats very quickly to get to work on time. Now, there's another good phrasal verb in this sentence. Can you see it? Here it is. Set off to work. So to set off to somewhere means you leave somewhere to somewhere else. So set off to work means leave the house and go in the direction of your work. Right, what else does he say? Once I'm at the office, the first thing I'll do is to check my emails and update my to-do list for the day. So once I'm at the office is a very useful sentence structure because it's a subordinate clause, and if you know a lot about IELTS, you'll know if you can use subordinate clauses in your writing and your speaking as well, then you're looking at getting a higher score for grammatical range and accuracy. So once I'm at the office, comma, the first thing I'll do is to check my emails and update my to-do list for the day. Okay, what else does he say? I've usually got quite a lot on my plate, so I have to be pretty ruthless about prioritizing my time. So I've usually got quite a lot on my plate. Okay, what's he talking about? Well, if you have a lot on your plate, it means you have a lot to do or a lot of tasks that you need to do. So, for example, if you have a lot on your plate, it means you've got a lot of work to do, usually in a short period of time. Or a student might have a lot of work on their plate, which means they've got a lot of revision or homework that they need to do before their next lesson. Okay, what else do they say? If I don't plan my time well, I'll be forced to work deep into the night, which I've had to do a few times. So, if I don't plan my time well, okay, we like that because that's a conditional. If I don't plan my time well, I'll be forced to work deep into the night. So, a first conditional sentence. Okay, what else do we have? Usually in the afternoon, I'll be following up with possible leads and liaising with my recent sign-ups to ensure that they're getting to grips with the products. Right, we like this. We've got possible leads and liaising. So that's specific vocabulary related to the job of being a salesperson. And this kind of specific vocabulary is usually what gets us those high scores in IELTS speaking. So why not learn the specific and high-level vocabulary that you can use to describe your job, just in case you get asked about it. Now we've also got getting to grips with. So this is an idiom. To get to grips with means to learn something, to fully understand something. So for example, I need to get to grips with science means I really need to understand science. So get to grips with something. Okay, and how do they end? They say there are often a few internal meetings as well, but we do our best to keep them to a minimum. Right, so we've looked at do you work or study, we've looked at what do you do in your work, and we've looked at can you describe a typical working day. Now I suggest that you learn, or rather practice your answers for these common questions about work. And there is another one. Are you happy you decided to do this kind of work? Another very common question. So how would we answer this? Well, we could say yes or no. So if we're going to say yes, let's use a different synonym. Let's say something like totally, completely, very much so. And instead of saying no, let's say something like not really or not at all. And then we also have others, things like most of the time I am, or it depends on the day. Now, when we give these short answers, what we want to do is give a short answer and then elaborate, okay? So you don't just want to say totally and then wait for the examiner to ask you the next question. Say totally and then explain more about why you love this job so much. Okay, so what kind of vocabulary can we use when we're describing the job that we either love or hate? Well, for jobs that we love, we can say things like, it's a rewarding job, a fulfilling job. So a rewarding job is, like being a teacher. You get to watch the progress of your students and you feel rewarded. So a rewarding job and a fulfilling job are very similar. Similarly, we have meaningful job. So I have meaning in my job. People say to have a meaningful job, you need to have autonomy, mastery, and purpose in your work. We'll see about that. We could also say that we have a creative job. So being an actor is a creative job. Also, we have a well-paid job. So if we have a well-paid job, it means we're getting a high salary for our work. Finally, we have challenging. So challenging means you've got a lot of work to do and it's difficult, but you quite enjoy the fact that you've got a lot of work and that it's difficult. Now, in contrast, we could say if we don't like a job that it is tedious, which means it's usually a bit boring and frustrating. We could also say that the job is monotonous, which means when you have to do the same thing over and over again, it's a repetitive job. A job could also be strenuous. So strenuous means it's difficult, usually physically difficult, or even maybe emotionally difficult. We could also have a stressful job, a poorly paid job, or a demanding job, which is like challenging, except demanding has slightly negative collocations. So it usually means I get a lot of work to do and a lot of tasks that I have to do, and I don't really like it that much. Okay, so we've covered what's your profession, we've covered what do you do in your work, we've looked at can you describe a typical working day, and are you happy you decided to do this kind of work? I suggest that you prepare for your IELTS speaking tests by writing your answers to these common questions and not necessarily memorizing your answers, but become familiar with these questions and the kind of vocabulary that you can use when talking and answering these questions. Right, if you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon as well to always be notified of upcoming videos from English Pro Tips. And if you really like this video, then consider becoming a member of English Pro Tips, where you'll get access to all of my IELTS preparation material. So I have, for example, a speaking course, a writing course, a reading course, a listening course, and a vocabulary course. And our writing course, well, my writing course, which is the most popular, recently helped one of my students go from a band 6 to a band 7.5 in her IELTS writing mock test. So that is really quite incredible, and I haven't seen that often in IELTS. To go from 6 to 7.5 is really impressive. Anyway, if you would like to follow in her footsteps, then click the link below and you'll be directed to my courses. Okay, best of luck with your IELTS preparation, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye then.